I'm just gonna get right into it. Whether there's anybody here or not, I just kind of feel like talking. I just kind of feel like going into deep thought. So the whole idea behind this type of stream that I'm doing is I've always wanted to do a podcast. I did a podcast a while ago, and I've always just kind of liked the conversation. I've always just liked talking, and I've always felt like I had a lot to say and just know where to say it. And I've written and everything like that, but I feel like talking with the face, everything like that is the best way to communicate. And I just like talking about everything, man, whether it's ideologies, whether it's people, whether it's what's going on in the world, anything. I just want to talk, and I just want to put my thoughts out there. So that's what this podcast is going to be. I don't know how long it'll be. I want to try to do it maybe twice a week, once or twice a week maybe, and just kind of see what happens. This is more kind of just an outlet for me to kind of talk, maybe share some ideas, maybe have conversation. I want people to be interactive. This is a big part of it. I want interaction from the chat. That's like a big thing that I would want from this. You don't have to if you don't want to, obviously. But with that being said, we'll kind of just go ahead and get into it. So as I titled the stream, as you guys can see, it's understanding people is kind of the big thing that I want to look at here. Looking at people from a different point of view than what we're used to, because I feel like so many people get caught up in this like idea of they just understand everybody and they know everybody, and we just kind of automatically assume we know where everybody comes from. And that's 9 out of 10 times that's really not the case. Whenever you meet somebody, we kind of have this pre-exposed, or I guess this preconceived idea that we know who they are, that they're just this person and that they've always been this person, and that's just who they are. And we don't tend to look at the individual because we're so caught up with the idea that the world constantly revolves around us. That's kind of the idea that we always live with. Is that somebody once said to me when I was having this conversation, somebody said we always look at ourselves like we're the main character of the story, like the whole world revolves around us because we live in this bubble of this universe that is us, because we're the one living our daily lives, our constant interactions, the hellos, the goodbyes, the buying coffee, the eating food. We all do it from our own personal point of view, in the same way that we view people. So when we see people, we're looking at them through our lenses, and we don't realize that most people are living their life the same way. Most people think of themselves as the main character, and when we meet other people, we tend to not give them chances, or we tend to just have, again, a preconceived notion about who they are or their beliefs or everything, and people get attached to these ideals, and we don't really look at people with the idea that everybody that you meet, everybody that you see, lives their own life. Everybody is the main character of their own story. Everybody kind of exists in their own unique little universe, and we kind of tend to forget that. I think we kind of have this idea that, again, everything revolves around us. We don't realize that every single person that you see on the street, every single person, you go to Walmart, you see 100 people. That's 100. It's 100 stories. It's 100 lives. It's 100 people that have lived years and years, and they have this everything that you do. They have family, they have friends, they have enemies, they have traumas, they have accomplishments, they have defeats, and we really don't think about that when we just see people in the passing by. And I'm not saying that you have to look at everybody and, oh, where did you come from, because it's hard to understand people. Most people don't even understand themselves, which is a big thing that, again, a lot of people consider themselves this main character, but they don't even really take the time to understand where they come from. But we have these preconceived notions about where everybody else comes from. We don't take the time to really sit down and think and process before we even go out into the world. There's a saying in Buddhism kind of talking about the home is the foundation of everything, essentially. Whether when we're talking about like government, or we're talking just about everybody in society, how can you go outside of your own home and try to force change when your own home is not secure? When you don't have peace within your own home, how can you expect there to be peace anywhere else? When your own home is the one place that you control, how can you expect anywhere else to be different? And that same ideology kind of extends to when we meet new people? How can we expect to try to force these people or put them in boxes or usher them and guide them? Legs or thighs? Chicken? We're gonna go chicken thighs. How you doing, Darian? Also, shout out, you see that? I need to increase that font size real quick, actually, because that is a little too small. I want that a little bigger. We'll see how that is. You can say something again in chat, Darren. I want to see how the font looks now that I got chat bot up. But, yeah, we kind of have this idea. Where the fuck was I? I got lost. Let me retract. Totally forgot. But, yeah, we try to usher these people and put them in boxes without ever really taking the opportunity to really understand where somebody's coming from. And I think especially in the climate that we're in today, everybody's so divisive. Everything is so my team or you're fucking done, you know? We're so unwilling to compromise that nobody's gonna come to an agreement on anything. Thighs, bruh. That's fact. I like that. Does that look good on stream, the chat size? I kind of like that. I like the way that looks. I think that's a good font size. I think I could run with that. And how you doing, Michael? But yeah, I feel like we have this tendency, again, I keep having to reiterate because I keep like interacting with you guys, and that's what I want. It's a good thing. But yeah, we have this tendency to just box people in without really understanding that, you know, maybe they have reasons why they act this way. Maybe they have reasons to believe this. You know, everybody lives a different life, and you may have gone through 20 different things that made you believe this way, and they may have gone through 100 things that make them believe their way. And we're so unwilling to talk and unwilling to compromise and unwilling to try to understand each other because I don't know where it came from. I really don't. I don't know where the switch was in society where we hit this wall of like just unwillingness to agree, even to disagree. Even to agree to disagree has become like this foreign concept. Like people can't stomach that. And you see it all over social media. It's a big reason why I got off of most of social media, pretty much all of it, because it's just this constant onslaught of people creating these echo chambers and bubbles around them where they don't even want to hear another ideology. They don't want to hear another point, because if it compromises their point or it threatens their idea, they're so attached to this idea that they think that idea is them. You know what I'm saying? We see this a lot in politics nowadays. There's so many people that even if another team comes up with a good idea, it doesn't matter, because if it didn't come from your team, it can't be a good idea. And I think that's so toxic. It's so bad, especially coming from a country that's supposed to be kind of the pinnacle of democracy. We're kind of known for, oh, the land of, you know, bring everybody in. If you're in a dangerous place, you can come here and find safe haven and find security. And I don't know where we lost that. I don't know where that happened, but something happened, and people nowadays are just so unwilling to meet in the middle. Even, you know, it's, I guess maybe, I assumed everybody was raised on this idea, but it seems like many people aren't raised on this idea that, you know, the real world kind of sucks, man. It's tough. That's kind of, even in, again, going back to Buddhism, one of the root beliefs, so like the 4 core beliefs, the main one is that life is suffering. Existence is suffering. You know, there's no avoiding it. Everybody will go through hardship. Everybody will go through pain. But, you know, life is, it's all about ups and downs. Nobody can stay on top forever. And ideally, nobody will stay at the bottom forever, because, you know, you're constantly going to go through moods. You're going to wake up where it's a bad day. You're going to wake up where it's a good day. And this idea that existence is struggle, that to live is to struggle, we kind of lost that ideology. You know, for me, I was raised on the idea, you know, hey, even if you don't agree with your boss, it's your boss. You're going to have to do what they say, because that's how life works. And while, you know, that's kind of a very vague, kind of a rough idea of what I'm trying to say, I do think it still applies, because bottom line is you're going to meet people that you don't agree with. You're going to meet people that you don't want to associate with, and you may have to, due to workspaces, due to school spaces, due to being in the same, you know, kind of circles, even being in the same home. You can disagree with your own family. You can disagree with your father. You can disagree with your mother. You can disagree with your siblings. And that doesn't mean that you have to just completely cancel them out. Now, obviously, there is a point. Life is terrible, but gotta find personal. Exactly. You have to find happiness within the self. I was talking about that kind of at the start of the podcast here, where people try to force all these ideologies and draw happiness, kind of what social media is. You're seeking external gratification when you don't have any gratification from the internal. You don't have any self-gratification or any self-reward. So how can you expect reward from others or gratification from an external source when there is no gratification from the self, from within? You know, your home has to be secure before you go to build a complex. You know, how can you build without a solid blueprint? You have to have a solid foundation, and the solid foundation is the personal happiness. It is the self. It is the home. It is the you. And I don't want people to try to twist that ideology to think that everything is about you. You should only do what makes you happy. You can't compromise, because while life is terrible and it is all about finding that personal happiness and chasing, you know, whatever it is that brings you happiness, to an extent, you're always going to have to compromise, because as much as we don't want to admit it or wouldn't want to face it, you're going to have to interact with people. You're going to have to come to disagreements. You're going to have to come to compromises, even in relationships, you know, with your significant other. If you're living together, even if you're not living together, there's always going to be things that you disagree on, and you're always going to have to try your best to understand where somebody is coming from and find the middle ground. I think life is, you know, the whole silver lining. Life's kind of all about finding that middle ground and trying to maintain that balance, while majority focusing on doing what makes you happy. At least for me, that's kind of how I try to live my life, because ultimately life is short, man. You know, we don't have much time, and I can't spend all this time just wasting away, you know, worrying about what's going on in the neighbor's home, what's going on in the city over, what's going on in the next place. You know, you kind of got to focus again on that personal happiness. Gohan already getting banned. I appreciate it, buddy. But we have this tendency to, again, focus on the external. What's going on here? What's going on there? And you gotta focus on yourself majority. You know, you gotta do what makes you happy. And again, I heard people talking about this before, and somebody was like, well, what about the racists? Being racist makes them happy. Should they do that? And obviously no. Because while life is all about, you know, chasing that personal happiness for balance, you have to understand that we do exist in this society where you're gonna have to interact with people. You do have to, you know, we're social creatures by nature. Nobody was meant to be alone. We were not meant to survive alone. It's literally the theme of Persona 4, finding true self of happiness. Yeah, and even Persona 4, that's a perfect example. How do people break free from their own chains? By coming to terms with the fact that, you know what, maybe I do have imperfections. Maybe I am angry. Maybe I am sad. But I have to accept that that's part of me and understand it so that I know how to live with it. It's all about understanding. And if we don't understand ourselves, we can't understand other people. This is a big thing that with all the outrage culture today, the whole cancel culture thing that we live in today, it's so horrible, because it feels like people are outraged about all these things, but they don't really know why they're upset. And you get that feeling a lot when I watch a lot of these protest videos, when I see, you know, as much as I try to avoid social media and the outrage and the noise, it's almost impossible to avoid. And when you see it, you see these people just screaming, and it seems like they don't even know what they're screaming about. These people burning down buildings. And again, I understand why the majority of the people are outraged nowadays. I try my best to understand, but there's a lot of people out there that I feel are just angry because it's like they found an outlet to be angry about, because they don't want to face the real problem. You know, it's easier to go join this herd mentality, to go join this outrage culture and go be angry about something, because it's easier than facing, you know, the internal. It's easier than looking at myself and trying to understand my own problems. So I'm just going to go create these problems, create this outrage, rather than facing the rage, facing the sadness, facing the problems that I have within myself, because it's not easy to understand yourself. It's not, you know. That's, you know, the whole ideology, again, of Buddhism kind of stems from, like, understanding the self, being rooted. And this is what I've been telling a lot of people. If it's so hard to understand yourself, Imagine how difficult it is to truly understand another person, because this person, again, they have this lifetime of trauma, this lifetime of accomplishments, fear, experiences, adventure, memories, friends, enemies, loss, gain. And it's hard enough for us to process our own lives and our own timeline. Imagine trying to take somebody else and understand them and understand their traumas when people don't even take the time to understand themselves. This is a big thing that, like, I believe everybody kind of needs to think. If we took everybody in the world to look, man, everybody needs to go home, stay home, and I'm not talking stay home because of the virus. I'm talking stay home and figure out what's going on in your own house. Why are you unhappy? Why are you trying to outrage about other things? Where's it really coming from? Are you just pushing this anger onto something else when it really comes from over here? Where is this really coming from? And I think everybody needs to try to understand themselves a little better before they try to force other people into this ideology that they've attached themselves to. And this all kind of stems from, I think, hard to understand others. Sitting here thinking of counseling. Yeah, man, that's why I respect what you're trying to do so much, man. You're taking that time to try to help people understand themselves, trying to take the time to help people just kind of understand, as just a broad statement, just to understand, whether it's understand yourself, understand what's going on around you, your environment, just understand. I think people are coming to a point where we don't even want to understand anymore. We just want to build an echo chamber of softness and fake happiness and these fake ideals because they protect us from having to go through hardship. They protect us from the struggle, from the malevolence of the world, when in reality, existence is suffering. You can't avoid it. You can't just shut the door and hide away in the dark forever. These things are gonna come to light. And I feel like a lot of people waste so much time trying to hide, and they don't realize it until the later years, until they're forced to reflect, because maybe they shut the door and they shut the door and they shut the door. And while I won't get too much into like my own personal things and people that I've had to cut off and things like that, but there's people that as you start to grow, you recognize when people don't grow. Too many follow. Yes. One of the biggest issues that we have in the world, I'm totally going to dismiss the tangent I was about to go on and go on this one. I think one of the biggest issues that we have in the world right now is a lack of leadership. There's no leadership. And again, you can blame that on Trump all you want. You can blame that on whoever. But again, that's the external. Who is the leader in your home? Who's the leader in your life? Are you really leading? Do you feel like you're leading? Because chances are you're just following this blind ideology and you're really just another sheep in the herd. I think too many people, you hear it all the time, this herd mentality. And the problem is we're a massive herd with no shepherd, essentially. And when you look back at any time there's been mass change in society, the civil rights movement, we had Martin Luther, we had Malcolm X. They're two different ideologies, but they were solid people to lead those ideologies. We don't have people that are solid leaders anymore. We don't have people guiding the light. And I think part of it comes from, again, I think the outrage culture and the cancel culture is so big and so massive that even if there was somebody trying to be a leader, it's almost like we're followers, but we refute the idea of being a follower, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say you get a group of all these protesters and somebody stands up and goes, hey, let's slow down, let's talk, let's find out why we're really here. So many people would be so quick to go, fuck you, you don't stand for me, get out of here, fuck you, cancel, shut up. Like, nobody's even giving somebody the opportunity to take leadership, because this ties back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. Everybody thinks they're the main character. Everybody wants to be that leader. Everybody wants to be the pinnacle of the movement and the face on the paper, and I do this for the likes and I want more followers and I want to be the one. I want to be the one at the head of the movement. And a lot of people genuinely just lack leadership. Being a leader is hard, man. You know, there's for anybody that wants to hear about leadership or listen about leadership, a couple people that I've listened to greatly and I feel like, you know, I agree with and I think they're great ideals is Jocko Willink, who is a Navy SEAL, which whether you agree with military or not, his ideas on leadership and building a core foundation on where to grow from and where to lead from is an ideology that applies to everything. It's not just military. And again, I think that's another issue, is just because an idea comes from somewhere, they immediately refute it. Again, if it's not from my team, it can't be a good idea. If I didn't come up with it, or the red guy or the blue guy didn't come up with it, it can't be a good idea. And that's just not the case, man. It's just really not. You can pull ideas from anywhere and apply them to your life. You know, even people that aren't religious can agree that when the Bible says, you know, don't kill people, don't cheat on your wife, don't be a shitty person, we can kind of all agree, like, you know what? Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we can pull ideas from other groups, from other people, and apply them to our own self and apply them to what we're trying to do. But I think so many people are just unwilling to do that now. And I don't know why. I don't know why so many people have built this echo chamber, whether it's social media, whether it's anything. We're just so unwilling to compromise and so unwilling to talk to each other. And I think that's the biggest issue that we have. And you hear everybody say it. I know it's cliche, like, what does the world need? It needs love. We need to talk more. We need conversation. And like, again, it's a cliche, and people will say, oh, that's so cliche. You're just saying that because it's a cliche. And while that kind of is true, there's that idea that you can still apply, you know? Even if it is cliche, it's kind of fucking true. People don't want to accept that it's true. People don't want to take that and process it and think about it. People are just so keen to cancel, to quit, so unwilling to compromise, so unwilling to understand each other. And it all comes from possibly a lack of understanding the self. Again, you know, people are creating struggle because there is no real struggle. That's another thing I've been hearing a lot of people talking about that I could see, you know. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something worth talking about, is life is pretty fucking easy, man. Like, to be honest, life is pretty great. We're living longer than we ever have. You know, I could walk down the street and get food. If I'm broke, there's a lot of programs to help people that are broke, you know. We've seen it through this whole pandemic as again, I try to avoid talking about anything political or anything like that, but it is kind of a good example right now. For example, the unemployment. A lot of people are making more money than they were when they were employed off of unemployment. A lot of people are reliant on it, which reliance, again, may not be the best thing. But there's systems in place to relieve that stress, to make life easier. And life is generally, I would say, easier than it's ever been for us as a people, for us as individuals. You know, no matter how you look at it, we're not having to chase food from tigers through the jungle on a daily basis and run miles and miles and miles for food and hunt, and our children are starving to death. And while that may be still happening, you know, in other places of the world, as far as what's happening here and what's happening in our own homes and what's happening around us, you know, that's not the case. And I think the ideology that I was trying to get to is our lives have become so easy, but with the belief and that idea that existence is struggle, we're creating struggle elsewhere. The struggle to simply exist, and the struggle to live, and the struggle to eat, have shelter, have warmth. Now that we don't have that struggle, we're just creating struggle elsewhere, because ultimately as a people, we thrive off of the struggle. You know, it makes us better. There is no growth within comfort. You're never gonna grow if you don't put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I always say, you know, think about people that build muscle, lifting weights, exercise, which, first of all, exercise is probably one of the best things you could do for your body and your brain as an entirety. I can't tell you how many times I've been distraught, you know, on the verge of anxiety, on the verge of falling apart, and then you go for a hard run and you're you're clearing and you can't think about other things because the running hurts and you just gotta run, and you finish the run and your heart's pumping and you're flushed and maybe you puke and maybe your feet hurt and maybe your head hurts, but you feel clear. You feel like you can think. You feel like you can start piecing things together. And to pull that back to what I was saying earlier, again, I'm no doctor, I'm no scientist, I don't have no nutritional or no like exercise science degree or any certifications, but I've heard for the longest time, and my understanding is the way that muscle builds is it tears. When you're pushing, when you're curling, when you're doing any exercise, you're tearing those muscle fibers, and then they rebuild, reattach, regrow larger and stronger. So even within our own bodies, if we want to grow and become stronger physically, we have to put ourselves through uncomfortable situations. We have to push heavier weight. It hurts. Maybe we, those dudes in the gym fucking benching up to get that last rep. And as annoying as you may see it, man, if that's what it takes for you to push the weight, fucking do it, Push that weight, grow, be better, be stronger, continue. And if that's how we grow physically and that's how we develop our bodies, why would that not also apply to how we develop our minds, to how we develop our personalities? When you look at all these people that you tend to follow, the few leaders that there may be in the world, they usually come from hardship, right? Even look at societal figures in the civil rights movement, anything like that, even fighters, even authors, anybody, usually the people that know the most about life, it's because they've been through a lot of life. They've seen so many different things. They've been through so many different things. So you develop that understanding and that connection through hardship, through going through those uncomfortable situations and being forced to adapt, being forced to learn, being forced to come to compromise with other people, learning different viewpoints. That's how we develop our minds. And I think so many people are unwilling to go through that grind. So many people are unwilling to push through that pain. And part of it, again, it could be our lives have become so easy and we're so used to not having to struggle that we create these external problems and these fake struggles, but then we don't want to go through the real hard part of the growth. It's like maybe as a people we crave for the struggle, we want a cause, we want a purpose, but then when we hit that road stop and shit gets hard, everybody pulls back. Nobody wants to go through the real, the down and dirty work. Nobody really wants to look at the reflection. Nobody wants to do it, but we still want the struggle. We still want, we want to feel like we're doing something great. We want to feel like we're standing up for something. But then when it comes to doing the real hard work, so many people fall apart and so many people crumble because they can't look at themselves in the mirror. They don't understand themselves. They don't understand the personal struggle. So how can you start to understand and perceive the external struggles? There's a line, and there's a MC, rapper, Black Thought, is a freestyle. And while his overall freestyle may have nothing to do with this, he has a line that says, "The home falls apart when the center's too weak to hold y'all." And again, it's all about building that foundation. How strong is your home? How strong is the self? How strong is your foundation? Because if you don't have a strong foundation, again, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. That's probably one of the truest statements that's ever been said. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. You'll fall for everything. You'll fall for anyone. And you see this with people that have nothing. They cling to this ideology that this is me, this is me, this is all I have, because they don't have that foundation within themselves. So they try to attach to these things. They try to make this their entirety, their existence, their everything. But there's no foundation. There's nothing to build that off of. Why do you believe this? Why do you think that? Where does your core come from? And again, I'm a very firm believer that, every person, your body is its own universe. Your body is its own world. It's its own dimension, however you want to put it. And one way to think about that is think about your stomach. This is something I've been, reading into a lot lately. Your gut biome, all that bacteria and everything inside of your stomach can affect your mental health And it's a living organism. You know, we like to think of our body and the brain as like, this is me, and I think what I think, and I do what I do, and it doesn't matter, you know, what I put into my body or anything like that. But, you know, the whole ideology that your body is it's a temple, your body is a world, your body is something that needs to be taken care of. Our body is an ecosystem. You know, we talk about climate change, trying to take care of the world, try to take care of the earth, but we don't reflect that care and that time and that patience and that effort within our own selves. You know, body and mind must be one. And part of that is understanding that there's this whole world inside of us. And there's this whole world inside of everybody. Again, there's a million different reasons why people act the way they are. And there's a million different reasons why you act the way that you act. Change the world, my final message. It's a great message, Darian. Nobody can argue with that. The world does need change. And I think we're going to be reaching a very pivotal moment. Or everything's just going to stop and then people are going to forget about everything that's going on like it always does. I don't know. You know, but ultimately I'm more concerned about what's going on in myself right now. And I think people need to be more concerned about what's going on in their self right now. Take that break from social media. Avoid the news. Avoid the chatter. Avoid the fucking white noise and the static. And take some time and really look at yourself, look at your life, and think, what are the problems that I can handle right now? What are the things that I can actually change right now? Again, I would love to end world hunger. I can't really do that though. I would love to find a cure for cancer, but I can't really do that. You know, me. And I think so many people are reaching for this bar that is so high, and that if they're not changing the world, then they're not doing anything. You know, I agree that we need to change the world, but we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. Cliche, ha, you know, but it's true. Because how do you expect others to change for you when you can't even change within yourself? You know? You can't force change. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can try to force all this change on people and show them all these ideologies, but ultimately, if the horse doesn't want to drink, it's not going to. If you don't want to change yourself, can't force all these other people to do it. You know, it's just not the way the world works. It's just not the way. So yes, we need to change the world, but we all need to individually focus on ourselves and change ourselves and make ourselves secure and have a foundation and have a base to build that change off of. You know, because while we do live in a great big world, and I do believe, you know, we're all connected way deeper than we want to admit. You know, all the differences and blah blah blahs and the race and color and religion and it's all just things that we create to try to feel individual, to try to feel like the main character, to try to feel like we have this purpose. But ultimately we're the same, man. You know, we're all people. We all live in the same planet, all live in the same country, even down to the home. We all live in this same house. We're not that different. You know, we're really not. And if we all start to change on the individual level, the greater change will ultimately follow. But it's hard, man. You know, it's hard to change. It's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and have that conversation and really take a look at yourself and be like, you know, like ask yourself, because again, you know, the people that have gone through change and the people that have had those conversations are usually the people that we look up to. So I don't know why we don't have those conversations. You know, how many times have you heard a great leader say, you know, I had to look in the mirror and take ownership for my mistakes? Jocko Willink has a great fucking TED talk about taking ownership. You need to own your mistakes, and even in some instances, the mistakes of those around you, in order to progress. And his ideology behind this is, you know, let's say your boss is mad at you for not doing your job. And then you go, you know what, man? You're right. Sorry. I'll pick up the slack. There's one of two things. Either your boss will give you the gratification and say, you know what? I appreciate that you took some ownership. Let's see that change. Let's work for it. Or your boss is going to go, yeah, you know what? You did fuck up. You know, you did lose that. You did miss your times. You did miss your quota. You know, you are a piece of shit. And we kind of just got to take that and go like, yeah, you're right. That's what I said. I'm glad we agree. And whether you push me to change or not, I'm going to push myself to change, because I'm not changing for you. I'm changing for the internal gratification. You know, you got to do things for yourself. You can't live your life for other people. You can understand other people. You can live your life to understand other people, to try to come to compromise and be at peace with other people. But at the core of it, you can't live your life for other people. Because if you're living for other people, you have no foundation within the self. And again, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. You know, you need that core foundation. You need that core belief in order to progress. And we need to take it step by step. You know, everybody needs to look in the mirror. Everybody needs to have those hard conversations. And on the cultural level, we need to stop this outrage. We need to stop the cancel. We need to stop the you're wrong, I'm right. If I say it, it's true. If you say it, it's wrong. Because there could be somebody who spouts 100 horrible fucking ideas, but they might have one great idea. One really, really good idea. And there's nothing wrong with taking that one idea and applying it to you, or applying it to your cause, or applying it to your team. Hashtag core values. It's all about the core values, man. All about it. That's why even as somebody that's not religious, I appreciate religion, because it gives people that core value. Now, obviously, there's some people that take religion over the top, and there's, heretics, heretics. There's psycho people in every fucking group. It doesn't matter where you go, you know. You go anywhere, there's always going to be somebody that's taking it over the top and is ridiculous. But at the core, that's not what religion is. That's not what the self is. That's not, you know, at the core, it's a solid guideline and a solid set of values to follow. And I think too many people are losing that base and core set of values within themselves, but they expect everybody else to be held to it. And ultimately, it all just comes down to understanding. It all comes down to finding the peace within yourself, because once you find that peace within yourself, you give off the energy of peace. You give off that aura of understanding, which influences others to also be understanding, to also be grateful, to also be kind, to also come to compromise, you know? There's nothing, again, the whole like kill them with kindness kind of ideology, nothing feels better than when somebody's upset and like popping off and you go, well, hey, we're on the same team here. Let's slow it down. I'm not attacking you. I'm not here to judge you. We're here to meet in the middle. I'm not here to win. I think that's a big thing that we have a problem with, is everything is a game. And in games, there's a winner. And whenever there's a winner, there's a loser. Nobody wants to be a loser. And we approach so many things like that when that's not how we need to approach things. There's no winners. There's no losers. It's all about the middle. It's all about that compromise. It's all about, I'm not here to attack you and put my foot on your chest and stick the flag in the ground and stand mighty and tall and, you know, claim that I have the best idea. No, because I might have some good ideas. You might have some good ideas. We can mix these ideas together and ultimately form something beautiful. And I think we just need a little bit more of that. We need a little bit more of the middle ground. We need a little bit less of the cancel. We need a little bit less of the screeching and the screaming and the Karens and the whatever you want to call it. We need a little bit less of it. We need people to just find peace within themselves, first of all, so that peace can then spread to other places. And I think that's a good spot for me to end this here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks, Darian. Thanks, Michael. Thank you guys for interacting. I'm going to want to do this like twice a week. And if you guys want to suggest ideas, feel free. I want to talk about everything. Me and my girlfriend are starting to work on, we're going to do a Halloween themed podcast, and we're going to kind of do some research into like ancient folklore of Halloween and witchcraft, and we'll spend a whole thing, you know, reading articles, watching videos, talking about that. Just interesting shit. It doesn't always have to be change the world. It doesn't always have to be look within yourself. You know, I want to talk about how artificial intelligence is going to run the world, or talk about how Earth is really just a giant spaceship spiraling through the ether at a speed that we can't even process. And, you know, I want to talk about anything and everything, but talk about it a little deeper, talk about it more than just on the surface level. And with that, suggest anything. We'll talk about anything and everything. If this ever does grow, I would love to have segments where people can send in videos or send in audio recordings, and obviously I'll review them before and then play them on the podcast, and let this be a, you know, as interactive and as much of a conversation as possible between everybody, because that's ultimately what we want. We want conversation, we want compromise, we want middle ground. And with that, I thank you all for tuning in. I'm probably going to be streaming some games in a bit. So if I go live again, that's what that'll be. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching the very first episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to follow the conversation, see what the next topic is. And if you guys want to be a more involved part of the conversation, feel free to send any audio or video files to the email in the description. That'll be where I can review them. And as long as they're not TOS, I'll watch them on stream. You guys can be a much more literal part of the conversation. If you guys care to be part of the live chat, I live stream the podcast on twitch.tv/irpyro every Wednesday and every Friday. That will also be in the description if you guys care to go drop a follow and drop some support there. I'd appreciate it. But if not, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day.